Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Worthiness Codes podcast. I'm your host, Jaclyn Francis, and as always, it is so beautiful to be in this space with you today. Let's dive right in. We are opening up the fifth passage, and within this passage, you will be awakening the worthiness code of your inner knowing. This is a really powerful place to be in because when you can understand your inner knowing and understand how it feels and how it sounds and really become familiar and confident in listening to it, you're going to navigate life from a very different place. I know I've said that before because all of the energies are ultimately pushing you into navigating life from a different place because you are no longer functioning from the spaces that you have always been from and becoming more aligned into your center, into your truth, into the higher aspects of self, naturally navigating life very differently. But we can look at your inner knowing as the navigational force, especially in times of change when you're standing at a threshold and your ego, which is the shadow that we will be working through today, is forcing you backwards, forcing you to stay comfortable, but your intuition is nudging you to go through the threshold, right? And ultimately, when you awaken your inner knowing, which is the higher frequency, the highest frequency of your intuition, there is no questioning. If it's the ego, if it's my intuition, it's just this deep knowing that you are meant to do something and you can't explain why, which again, we'll get into next week. So today, as always, the journal prompts and guided meditations are available at theworthinesscodes.com. So I really invite you to go and download because it helps you really drop in deeper to the energies that we are talking about. All of the journal prompts build upon one another to allow you to go through this really deep, transformative journey of awakening higher aspects of self, ultimately ascending into a higher version of self. It's a total rebirth and a really beautiful way to work through challenges in life, to shift into just living life more in a beautiful flow state and experiencing all of the divine things that are meant for you. And we will get started. So this passage, we are focusing on the pedestal, which is the shadow of the ego, and the pathway, which is the midpoint transformational energy of your intuition. And then next week, we'll be shifting into the pillar, which is the worthiness code of your inner knowing. The theme of this passage, of all three of these energies, are connecting to deeper guidance. So if you've been following along and are really working through your own ascension journey using this blueprint, I want you to think of this point in your journey as your emergence, as this is the process of your inner knowing coming into view so you can see it, understand it, and feel confident in following it. Let's get started and dive into the energy of the ego. So what is the ego? What does it mean? The simplest way to identify the ego is by tying it to the human experience. Your ego is your mind. Your ego sits within the mental plane. It is rooted in mostly your shadows and your wounding. It's rooted in what you know and what you're comfortable in. I want you to think of your ego as the part of you that ultimately is limiting you because it's keeping you comfortable. Whereas if we look at the opposite energy, which is your intuition is going to guide you into new, into growth, into periods that are followed by the unknown. And the ego is repelled by it. That's why these two energies is really important to be able to discern and understand the difference, because the ego is intimidated by your intuition. Your ego is intimidated by your soul because, again, your ego is your human. So your ego isn't going anywhere and it's not negative. We are meant to embrace the ego, to understand when it shows up and how it shows up and its voice. So we can make it feel comfortable within this growth journey that we are going on, especially if you are on this path of evolution. right? Your ego is constantly going to be knocking at the door of your mind being like, I don't want to do this. I'm good right now. I don't want to move into a period of the unknown. Like, I'm comfortable with where we're at. Why are we doing this? And the way that your ego is going to show up, it's going to be by providing you with certain narratives that are tied to your wounding, that are tied to your trauma. It's going to feel very urgent and a very just like loud, annoying chatter of the mind that's usually on repeat, that is looping. And we're going to get into the difference between the physical sensations and how they show up within the ego and the intuition at the end of the episode. But that is just something that's really important to keep in mind. So also when the ego comes up the loudest, again, are at those moments of change. So if you are debating if, let's say, you want to leave a relationship or if you want to start a business, there are going to be two voices. Just like you can envision like the devil and the angel on your shoulder, the devil is ultimately the ego and the angel is ultimately your intuition. So when you're in a situation that these two parts of you are fighting one another, when you can be able to listen to both and say, okay, I know this is my ego and I know this is my intuition, that's going to be really important. So the ego typically comes up when there's change on the horizon. And I'm sure a lot of you are going through a really big period of change in some aspect. I am, as you can tell if you're watching on YouTube, I have a whole different background. I suddenly had to move. Life changed literally overnight for me, and we are riding the waves, going with the flow. But when you are at a moment of change, the ego and your intuition will simultaneously present themselves to you. So being able to discern the ego from the intuition is going to be really powerful. Your ego, we can think about change as being a threshold. Your ego, and visualize the threshold as this gate or this wall. Your ego is going to pull you back from moving through that threshold, breaking through that wall, whereas your intuition is going to gently nudge you forward. And the bigger the change that is on the horizon, what is on the other side of the threshold, which as humans, we can't always see, the louder the ego is going to be, because the ego knows that, like, okay, this is going to be really big change. This is going to be a really big opportunity for growth. And I want to keep her comfortable. I want to keep her safe. So I'm going to show up really loud by presenting certain narratives and certain core wounds to her that makes her not want to listen to that intuitive nudge and move forward. And if we look at the opposite energy, so we move into shifting into the pathway of the transformational energy of your intuition, because when you start to listen to your intuition, then it's also strengthening your inner knowing. But your intuition is, let's call it the voice of your higher self. Your intuition is that internal guiding system that is speaking to you through what we can refer to as intuitive hits or intuitive nudges. Now, intuition is unique for everyone. It can be feelings based, it can be auditory, it can be visions, right? But mostly intuition is this gentle nudge that comes from almost like a gut feeling, pull on the heartstrings. It's never forceful. It's never urgent. It's like, ooh, I feel like I'm meant to go to this coffee shop today for some reason. And I'm just like being guided, almost like you're being pulled by a force that you can't see, or slightly just gently pushed towards something. It can be, I think I'm meant to leave my job, or I think I'm meant to leave my relationship and I don't know why. And it's coming up almost like an embrace, very just calm and very positive. And again, it can't be explained. Whereas the ego within those specific scenarios, if you're like, oh, I think I'm meant to leave my relationship, your ego is going to tell you all of the reasons why you shouldn't leave to keep you comfortable. But your intuition is going to say, I think I'm meant to leave. And again, it's just like this knowing, this gentle force. So now you can understand that, oh, if both are showing up, one's tied to like really noisy, urgent narratives that I can see are based in old patterns and wounding, and one is guided towards something I don't know, but I can feel it within my body. Let me follow that intuitive nudge to do the thing it's telling me to do. Your intuition as well, just kind of building upon that, is guiding you out of spaces that no longer serve you. That's pretty much the ultimate purpose of your intuition. If it's guiding you towards something, it's also guiding you out of something. So just depending on how you want to look at it, but the main reason why intuition is showing up, because you are in a place within your life that you're not meant to be in, that there is something more for you on the other side. Now, of course, intuition can come in terms of like protection and protecting you from like a dangerous situation, which are those like gut feelings. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But for the main purpose of being able to discern between ego and intuition, your intuition is guiding you out of something and towards something, whereas your ego is guiding you to stay in something because it's what you know and it's what's comfortable for you. Okay, the last part of this episode, I really want to focus on anxiety. And the reason being is that anxiety is a very present feeling, emotional response that happens in both ego and in both intuition. But they show up in two very different ways. So if you are someone who has dealt with anxiety, and of course this is separate if you are, have chronic anxiety and you're on medication, like I'm not a doctor by any means. This is simply just a way for you to be able to start, because you hold the power to really allow yourself to peel back layers as to why certain emotions and mental and physical things come to surface, right? So this is a way for you to look at your anxiety and be able to move through it. I want to make this really tangible for you guys. So the ego, the simplest way to look at this, when you have anxiety and it's through your ego, it's going to be within the mind. It's going to be a constant narrative that is on repeat, that is essentially looping. It's going to feel loud and it's going to feel urgent. It's going to feel like, I can't get this out of my head. That is anxiety of the mind driven by the ego. The ego is driven again by where it's comfortable, most likely in your shadows, in your wounding. Okay. When you have anxiety that is from intuition, and this goes back to situations that you're not meant to be in, this goes back to protection and danger, those gut feelings. Anxiety from the ego is there because it's communicating to you that you are not supposed to be where you are. This type of anxiety is within the body. It's driven from the nervous system. So the way that this can show up is by like lingering, energetic, emotional, and physical sensations. More like your nervous system is just kind of out of whack. And if you're very sensitive to energy, it can be like even chakra based. So like maybe your root chakra is like on fire, or you are just constantly like in this emotional state where you're crying and you don't know why, or you're just reactive and you don't know why. Inability to speak your truth, a nervous energy, inability to sleep. This is huge. Your body speaks to you before anything else. When you're in a relationship and you cannot sleep next to the person that you're in a relationship with, that is a very key sign that you are not meant to be in that relationship. So again, the body speaks to you, and this is your intuition through the body telling you you are not meant to be where you're at. When it's through the mind, that is your ego communicating to you through urgent chatter and comfortable, old, outdated patterns to say, I don't want you to grow. I don't want you to go into the unknown. I don't want you to leave. So I'm going to do everything in my power to hang on for dear life and keep you comfortable. If you've ever experienced an ego death before, ego deaths happen when you go through a very deep period of growth. We can call it a spiritual awakening. Ego deaths happen before the awakening happens. It can happen simultaneously as well. I mean, it all depends on, your own journey and that specific awakening within itself. Ego deaths are incredibly difficult because it feels like, viscerally, it feels like old parts of you are dying away, but they are so uncomfortable because it's very loud within the mind. And it is very loud within the body too, because again, it's like the energy is just being stripped away from you. This is a tangent, just side note. But when you're experiencing a spiritual awakening, ego death goes hand in hand with it. So it's just these two energies, they're just amplified. Okay. This is a difficult one because I even still struggle to be like, is this my intuition? And I have learned that I have a very deep inner knowing. We all have very deep inner knowings. It's just, again, peeling back the layers of where we're comfortable. It's peeling back the power that the ego has over us so we can start connecting to that inner knowing. But when you have a really deep inner knowing, you begin to just do things in life because you feel like it's something that you're meant to do. And the outside world, people that are closest to you, are going to think you're irrational. They're going to think like, why is she making all of these like irrational decisions and such spontaneous choices? It doesn't seem responsible. Like, I don't understand what she's doing, but it can't be explained. And there have been countless times in my life where my inner knowing has just hit me and I'm like, all right, I'm meant to do this. And my life completely changed. Everything within my life completely changed. And it brings you into a really deep period of the unknown because so much is falling away. So that's what the ego is scared of. It's literally what the ego is scared of because as a human, we don't like the unknown. And those periods of change, those periods of like not being able to see what's next can be really scary, especially if you have to uproot your life and start over, or if you are going through a really difficult time, whatever it may be. That is exactly what the ego is trying to prevent. So to just sum it all up for you, really, really simply, your ego trying to keep you comfortable. It will be loud, it will be urgent, it will be a looping narrative that is rooted in shadows and wounding because it does not want you to grow. It does not want to experience discomfort of the unknown. Your intuition is subtle, it is gentle, it is through the body, it is through a undeniable, unexplainable outside force or deep inner force that is guiding you somewhere, whether it can feel like a gentle push or a pull. It is guiding you towards something that is going to change your life, that it is meant for you, ultimately, most of the time, ending up in a period of discomfort of the unknown. So when that happens, if your intuition is speaking to you, your ego is also going to present itself. So it's about you getting comfortable, being able to identify the ego from your intuition so you can discern in the moment what voice is talking to you. And when the ego comes up, it's not about just pushing it away because it's part of your human experience. It's about listening to the things that it's saying and just saying, I hear you, but no, thank you. Like, you do not have power over me. And when your intuition is speaking to you and presenting itself to you, it's listening and saying, ooh, I hear you, but I am scared. Show me how I know I'm meant to listen to this, right? It's asking outside guidance or inner guidance. I like to think of everything from within, but you can ask the universe, show me how I'm meant to move forward. You can ask for help in identifying these voices. Ask for help from your higher self, from the universe, and you will start to see that your third eye chakra is expanding within this process and starting to navigate through these two different lenses. They both serve a purpose, very different purposes, but they both serve a purpose. And it's not about getting rid of the ego, and it's not about not being comfortable in life. Like, you are still human. You still have free will, divine choice. That is your birthright. That is part of this whole experience. But I invite you to not let your ego keep you from things that you were meant for, keep you from growth, keep you from opportunities that are going to challenge you and going to push you and bring you into a place that is so far beyond beautiful what the mind can currently see. So just know that you are worthy of understanding that your intuition is divinely part of who you are, and it will come online the more that you allow it to present itself, the more that you understand the language of how she speaks to you, how she shows up. Ultimately, the more that you say yes and listen and take the steps and where it's guiding you, awakening the inner knowing. And the inner knowing is the unwavering. There is no questioning the inner knowing. And that's next week. So I will see you guys then. I love you. I love you. I love you. Until next time. Bye.